What's up, everybody? This is Julian Gressel, and I'm excited to host another episode of the Gressel Special. Today, with a special occasion, I have wore the special jersey. The Bundesliga is back, and I'm excited to talk Bundesliga with a guy that has played in Germany. Thanks for coming on the show, Russ. Wie geht's?
Good, man. Danke. Everything's good, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming on. First of all, I want to just check in and see how you're doing during this quarantine time. I obviously haven't seen you in person in a while, unfortunately. How's everything going?
It's all good. Obviously tough trying to maintain fitness and, we're not being able to go to the gym, doing all our normal routine stuff, but I'm doing well, doing the best I can. How about yourself, man?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there. At least the weather finally is getting nicer here in DC,
Yeah.
so we can get outside a bit for the weekend, which is nice and much needed for sure. But yeah, I mean, like I said, you played in Germany. You've went over there. We kind of did opposites. You went to Germany from the US. I went to college coming from Germany. How was your time in Hoffenheim? I know you went through the youth system there. Had one Bundesliga appearance, I want to say.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, you got it.
How was that time, and what was it like just at Hoffenheim and then at Bochum when you were on loan?
Yeah, so I think it's super interesting that we kind of flip-flopped. I know we talked about that when you first got here, because I went to Germany 15 and you came to the US, did the college route, but super cool. So it was great having you in the team. Regarding my German background, I went over at 15 years old. I waited a year to sign my first contract with Hoffenheim because I wanted to see if I was liking it, if it was the right fit for me. Definitely a tough experience when you first get there. I'm sure you kind of had a similar experience, but It's really tough adapting to a new culture, new environment, especially when you don't speak the language. I kind of just felt like I was I was in a different country. Everything was completely new. So, but the guys within Hoffenheim, when I went there, 15 years old, they made me feel comfortable. All the coaching staff, a lot of the guys try to speak English there, and I'm sure you know that it's not the best, but they definitely make you feel comfortable. I had everything I would need as a 15-year-old. I was living in the academy building, so I had a chef there for us. We had the fields right outside. I had the transportation to go to school in the morning with the train. So it was definitely a good experience for me. I always look back on it and I have great memories. But started with the U17s, went up through the U19s with Hoffenheim reserve team. I played a lot of games and then ended up making my debut with the first team. So that's kind of what obviously you work for years, and finally being able to play in the stadium and get that experience, it was unbelievable. So I ended up playing in March, making my debut against Wolfsburg, and then I got put out on loan to Bochum in the second Bundesliga for about a year and made 20 appearances there. So that was my first exposure to pro football, and at an early, my first year. So it was really a good learning experience for me, but definitely challenging. I had a lot of moments that were difficult at the time, but I look back and have great memories there.
That's awesome, man. And I know that, I mean, as soon as Hoffenheim kind of became a point in the Bundesliga or even in the second Bundesliga, they put an emphasis on their youth team and doing things right and taking care of the players they bring in. And it's awesome to hear that you had a good experience, obviously.
Yeah.
So are you still a Hoffenheim fan or?
Yeah. Definitely. So definitely still a Hoffenheim fan. I wish it would have kind of worked out differently with the whole situation with Hoffenheim. Sometimes I look back on it, but that's the way football, soccer is. It's, everyone has their unique experience, their journey, but definitely still a Hoffenheim fan. I mean, they did a lot for me for my career, and I supported them since I was 15 years old. So definitely still like them. Another team probably I support is Dortmund. I really like, I just love the atmosphere that these guys have. But I'm not really biased towards other teams. I mean, if I'm going to support someone, I want Hoffenheim to do well, but it's definitely interesting. Like Leipzig's another up and coming team. So my old coach is the head coach of Leipzig. So that's kind of an interesting,
Yeah. We'll get to that. Don't worry. We'll get to that.
Yeah. All right.
That's a pretty cool story, but Before I forget, I actually forgot to start. If you share this link on Twitter, we'll have a little giveaway. We can give away a signed away jersey from DC United from me. So if you share this link now, we'll within the next 24 to 48 hours, we'll contact you if you're the winner of a signed jersey. So keep sharing that link. That'd be awesome.
We'll share it,
But yeah,
man.
let's get back to the Bundesliga. Let's look at the standings here to kind of start us off, where things stand of kind of where it resumes. Obviously, you have Bayern on top, followed by Dortmund, Leipzig, Mönchengladbach. They're pretty tight behind there. And then we have an interesting race for the Europa League. We'll get into that a bit. And then I obviously want to talk about some teams that have been struggling a bit more this year that are fighting for that relegation spot. But let's start on top, I guess. Let's start with Bayern and kind of their turnaround this season, right? I mean, obviously you've been watching, so they struggled to start. Had a coaching change. Obviously, it didn't really work out. They wanted to with Niko Kovac as their coach, and now Hansi Flick came in and they really turned things around. I thought they were the hottest team in Europe by the time this whole shutdown happened. So I think they were pretty bummed about that. So I think they could have made a really deep run into the Champions League, and I think they would have ran away with the Bundesliga as well. But what do you kind of see happening in the title race? I know Dortmund and Leipzig, they're within reach, obviously. What do you see happening? What do you think of those teams up there?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to predict right now because of what's happening. It's kind of just a break, and the teams who are mentally strong, obviously, who have the quality players to go out and finish out the rest of the season, will be the ones being successful. But I think it'll be a challenge for Bayern. I mean, if they can get back to the way they're playing, there's no brainer that they're going to win it all. But who knows? I mean, some teams, some players can get complacent and maybe not do the work they should be doing during this time. So it'll definitely be an interesting end of the year race for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Bayern fan, right? I know you don't like to hear that with you supporting Dortmund.
I don't mind.
I've been a Bayern fan my whole life. I always say that.
I love the way Bayern plays. If I can just choose between a Bayern or Dortmund, I'm going to support a Dortmund. But I do. I mean, I enjoy watching Bayern Munich for sure.
Yeah. And I've been following their social media accounts a bit, and they've been doing these virtual trainings where some older players would jump on, like Schweinsteiger would jump on, or Arjen Robben would jump on, just as a surprise element. It looks pretty funny, and obviously with Alphonso Davies over there, it's a pretty cool story that what he's gone through of kind of his journey throughout this year, especially with the new coaching change, where I don't think he's missed a minute since the new coach came in.
He's one of the best.
Awesome story there.
For sure.
Yeah, but I like watching Leipzig, especially. I mean, I'm not too biased towards Dortmund, but I think Leipzig plays a really fun style, and let's get into kind of Julian Nagelsmann as a coach a bit, right? I mean, you said you had him; he has a great name, I think.
Yeah.
But how is he like as a coach? Like, what were your experiences like with him?
Yeah, so when I first got to Hoffenheim, he was the U17 assistant coach, and then I played a year under him, and that was with the 94 age group. 95, I'm a 95, so they moved up, and then I became the U17s, and he moved down to coach the U16 age group, and I ended up getting him. So obviously moving up the ranks, I ended up having him in my second year as the U19 coach, and we went on to win the U19 Bundesliga title, and that kind of really propelled him. He had a name in the academy already, and I think they had a goal to propel him to the first team, but that really gave him the pathway to the first team, and ended up getting an assistant coaching role and moved into the head coaching role at Hoffenheim. And he was actually younger than a lot of the older guys on the team, but he was the head coach of the first team. But Nagelsmann is the one who gave me my debut. Definitely interesting coaching style. Really bases his formations off the opponent, but still stays consistent with his philosophy, the way he wants to play. A lot of pressing, a lot of verticality with the build out. So definitely an interesting system, and obviously you can see how well it worked for Hoffenheim, really establishing them as a Bundesliga team year over year, but also then now transitioning that to Leipzig and having them be at the top of the table. So super, super interesting.
That sounds really interesting. I feel like he's such an energetic coach. You can see it on the sidelines, and I really like how they play. I mean, Leipzig, they're a quality team. I think they advanced in the Champions League, I think too. So I think they obviously I think beat Tottenham, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
Leipzig is a tough team to play against, and
yeah. So I could totally see them or even Dortmund,
they could make a
kind
run.
of
Yeah,
make a run, yeah, and kind of challenge Bayern again.
for sure.
But I mean, even behind them, right? You have Gladbach, you have Leverkusen, you have Schalke, and Wolfsburg, right? Who are all fighting kind of. Well, Gladbach is a little bit separated, but they're more fighting for like the fourth spot in the Champions League, right? Which is a qualification spot that you have to win, and then that Europa League, right? Which is a lot of money for these teams. Where like the sixth spot is the last spot there, that would really get those players and get the club on a financially different path than what it would be like otherwise. um, what do you kind of like from those teams? Do you have any insights? Obviously you made your debut against Wolfsburg, you said.
Yeah,
Do you see anybody kind of separating themselves in that pack, or is it just Hoffenheim? I guess you can include in that as well. If you look at the standings, they have 35 points. They're 2 points back from that sixth spot. What do you think will happen there?
yeah. I think those teams are kind of the ones you'd expect to be in that European, fighting for those 4,
Yeah,
5, 6, 7 positions. Um, those are the kind of the teams with a little bit more financial help to do it as well. So you can kind of see why they're there. But it's going to be tight. I don't see them really pulling and pushing for the title race, obviously, with only, what is it, 9 games left.
yeah.
But I think, I mean, I think Gladbach's going to finish possibly in the Champions League. I don't know. I don't know if Schalke, Wolfsburg could overtake Schalke. Leverkusen, I think, is pretty strong team as well. So
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
mean,
I like Hoffenheim obviously, but I don't foresee them getting into Europe
yeah,
this
it's a tight race for that sixth spot, and you got to remember that seventh spot, which technically is not a Europa League spot, but with the DFB Pokal kind of coming in play, it
year.
could still be a European spot. So if Bayern or somebody that is already qualified wins, then that seventh spot is a really important spot,
Yeah,
because then you get in, right? Even though
yeah,
by not qualifying throughout the year. So it's going to be interesting to see. Then you obviously move down the table a bit. You have bunch of teams that are a little bit of no man's land, that are essentially pretty safe, but can't really make it too much of a push to go to Europe. Um, and then you move further down the bottom. I think starting with Augsburg or Mainz, like who might still have a relegation race, which obviously is really big for these clubs, right? And for these teams, if you get relegated, then your budget is basically cut in half, or even worse, and it's a difficult to come back up. I think you saw that last year with Hamburg or Stuttgart, right? Two massive teams that got relegated. How do you see kind of Düsseldorf, Bremen, and Paderborn kind of making it challenging? Paderborn is a bit far away, I think, but
yeah. They're going.
maybe Düsseldorf or Bremen to kind of make a Bremen a huge club, right? To kind of make a challenge and make a run at Mainz, Augsburg, maybe even Berlin or Frankfurt to kind of secure themselves, and get them safe.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of the way it's already shaped out right now is kind of the way it'll end up. Um, I haven't seen. I mean, Bremen and Paderborn kind of have been my 2 teams that I'd probably predict to go down for the whole year anyway. And Dusseldorf, I
Interesting.
think they have, they could make a run for it, but um, I don't know. There's 4 points. It may not seem like a lot, but I mean, that can be a lot with these bottom teams who aren't winning games that often. You know?
Yeah, I mean, but we said it earlier, right? And with this quarantine and how this all, or this shutdown of how it all happened, you never know how a team comes out
Yeah,
of the gate here. Like, you can have a team like Bremen, right, who has a ton of quality in their squad, I think, and
yeah,
shouldn't be where they are, really, with an American obviously in Josh Sargent. So it might be interesting, kind of, to see how that develops for a lot of American soccer fans. But yeah, I think they could easily make a run and kind of like get themselves out of those spots pretty fast.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the thing on the other side as well, where you have a team like Frankfurt or like Berlin or Augsburg who haven't been amazing this season, haven't secured enough points to really call themselves safe, to really come out the gate a bit slower and not win as many games, and then you kind of find yourself in the middle of the race again. So it's just really difficult to judge, but it's obviously interesting to just look at and kind of see how it all starts, especially this week. But let's jump in a bit more of individual players, kind of who stands out to you. What have you watched? What do you like? What Americans players have you watched? And kind of what sense do you get from the individual side of it?
Yeah. I'll just start with Dortmund because that's obviously the team that I said I'm more biased with.
Yeah.
I love watching them. I think they're attacking football. Jadon Sancho obviously is one that sticks out. Everyone's pointed him out this year. In terms of Americans, obviously you got Adams, McKinney, those guys, Sargent. You have Brooks at Wolfsburg, and
Yep.
we talked about Timmy Chandler being at Frankfurt. I think he's actually one you'd say like, okay, doesn't really get much press, but he's been pretty solid this year and has put up a couple games where he's had multiple goals, which he's not normally the guy you're going to have scoring goals, but he's been pretty solid player for Frankfurt this year. And they're in a decent spot. Like Frankfurt's okay playing middle of the table, like staying in the league. But those are the types of guys. I always like, one player I always kind of try to emulate, and I really like his game is Kimmich from Bayern. I do like Bayern in that sense, watching them play. But I don't know. How about you? I'm going to ask you the question.
Anybody? Yeah, I think in terms of kind of players that stand out to me this year, I think you have, mentioned Sancho from Dortmund, right? Who has been unbelievable.
Sorry, I forgot Banner.
Yeah, he's good. And then, for me, I think it's Kai Havertz in Leverkusen. I think he's been phenomenal. And I don't think he'll be at Leverkusen much longer, to be honest with you. But, he obviously stands out, and I think he's the future of Germany, I want to say, kind of in the national team and stuff. But you have guys like Serge Gnabry, right? Lewandowski. I think even Thomas Müller, who kind of a lot of people thought about that weren't high on him for the season. Now all of a sudden he's been a big part of Bayern's turnaround this year. And so I think there's obviously you have the big time stars, right, that stand out. But I'm a big believer in like really sticking to your identity and staying true to who you are. And I absolutely love Freiburg as a team for that. With their coach that has been there for so long, they don't have any big name players. If you go through their roster, I don't think a guy that doesn't regularly watch the Bundesliga would know anybody.
Yeah.
And they're doing so well. They're in the middle of that Europa League fight still, and they're just, they're doing things right financially, on the field, off the field. It's just a great club, I think. And I absolutely love that. And I think there's so much to that from that in Germany, where you have such teams that are so true to their identity and so true to who their fan bases want them to be, which is why the fans are so great in Germany, I think, and why it's so much fun to watch. But that's, obviously coming from a guy that has watched it since basically
Freiburg,
I was able to understand it.
Right.
There you go.
Stuttgart obviously is the biggest rival for Hoffenheim, but
yeah,
Freiburg, I loved playing against Freiburg in the academy because their identity is playing out of the back, doing all this stuff. And in Hoffenheim, Nagelsmann, we just press them and win the ball and then go every time. That's unbelievable this year.
Yeah, it's great, and then I think just their identity and who they are as a team is just awesome. But let's I guess to kind of finish it off, let's look at this week's matchups. Let's look at kind of what things are coming up. Obviously, you have the big game sticking out: Dortmund versus Schalke, the big derby, Revier Derby. It's called in Germany. That will be on Fox Sports 1 actually at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow, and I will be watching that for sure. That. What'd you say?
I said, too bad there's no fans in that one, because that's
It is a great game, and obviously a lot's at stake in that area. They're so close to each other in terms of proximity, and it's you walk around in Gelsenkirchen in Schalke with a yellow shirt on, you might get beaten up basically.
Yeah,
So there's a lot at stake for that, and really interesting game just to right out the gate, isn't it?
definitely. No, I mean, with Bochum, I lived kind of 10 minutes from Gelsenkirchen, 10 minutes from Dortmund. It was Bochum's like right in the
Yeah.
middle. I definitely kind of experienced a little bit of that. In Bochum, we had former Schalke players, so like you could see, how big of a derby that was. Definitely cool. I don't know who.
That's
I think
awesome.
wins that though.
I think I was at the Bochum Stadium once, and I think you can see the Schalke Stadium from the Bochum Stadium. Is
Yeah,
that
if you're
right?
up
Or
top, I think you can.
yeah, I think so. It's crazy how tight these teams are there, and how much it means for those fans to be, yeah, just part of that one club, right? And how much they hate the other ones. It's
Yeah,
unbelievable to see.
even the players who played for
Um,
they hated Dortmund. Like
yeah, so that derby will be on at 9:30. And then we got at 12:30, we got Frankfurt versus Gladbach. Really good matchup. I think Gladbach has been a really good team as well this year, and Frankfurt obviously with a ton of Americans. I know their GM Freddie Bobic. He's also very keen on the U.S. in general. He looks over here a lot. He watches some MLS and likes the American lifestyle as well. I know they've gone to some preseason camps in the U.S. too. So I think that's another pretty good matchup, which we'll be able to watch here. Obviously, with it being live on television. And then following that on Sunday, obviously you have a bunch of other games. All the other games will be on, I think, on Fox Sports Plus. So if you have that, you can tune into that. On Sunday, we have to wait an extra day to watch Bayern. Unfortunately for me, that's definitely the one I want to watch. But you have Cologne versus Mainz to kind of start Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Also on Fox Sports 1, and then Union Berlin versus Bayern at 12:30. And I know this is very difficult for all Union Berlin fans, because I feel like they've been waiting for this game, especially for such a long time. They're obviously just got promoted last year, and now Bayern comes to town and nobody's allowed in the stadium.
yeah,
What do you see kind of? I mean, Union Berlin is a team, right, that plays with a ton of heart. They don't have the best quality in their squad, or obviously not as big as quality as Bayern, but they play with a ton of heart and play with a ton of kind of what's going on in a sense of fight and grit and all that type of stuff that really makes a good team. And then on to finish it off on Fox Sports 2 on Monday, actually at 2:30, so a little bit later, you got Bremen versus Leverkusen. So unfortunately, your Hoffenheim won't be on TV this week, but hopefully next week it will be. Kind of what if you go through the matchups? Kind of what do you predict? What sticks out to you? What do you think will happen over the weekend to kind of start? Obviously, it's difficult to say, like we said earlier.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I think Dortmund's gonna win against Schalke. I think like one game that sticks out is that Union Berlin. I'm saying German. Union Berlin against Bayern, because you touched on that one a little bit. And I think the fans were looking forward to that one, because that's what makes Union Berlin themselves. Like when their fan base is there and they're throwing off the red flares and everything, that's like a tough stadium to play in. So like Bayern Munich coming there, like it's sad that the fan base isn't going to be there. I think not having the fan base behind them makes it even tougher on them. So it's going to be interesting to see all these games without fans, kind of what the results are, especially the first game back. I think it's really up in the air for a lot of these. Like you look at a Berlin Hoffenheim game, like it's up in the air.
Yeah,
It's going to be difficult. I think Wolfsburg beats Augsburg. I think Gladbach beats Frankfurt, but I think Düsseldorf will beat Paderborn, and Leipzig will beat Freiburg. So that's kind of and we have Cologne Mainz. Now that's probably going to be a tie. Those are my predictions.
There you go. You got to throw a tie in there.
Yeah, I
All right, we'll double check those when we get back on Monday, I guess, or I'll text you
Yeah,
Monday night, I guess, see how you did.
yeah,
But that's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to just watch live soccer, man. Finally, we're back. We're able to watch some live sports again, and that obviously, with that being the Bundesliga, even better for me because I absolutely love it. I would watch it anyways. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Obviously, appreciate you talking a bit of Bundesliga with me. I'm excited to see you again, hopefully very soon.
Yeah.
Stay safe, and to all the fans out there, thanks so much for tuning in, and then excited to see you again in the next one. But enjoy watching the games this weekend, and yeah, have a great weekend.
Thanks for having me, man. See you soon.
See ya.